Broadcast. You're a part of the Resistance.
Welcome back to the Resistance Broadcast. My name is John Hoey. Thank you so much for joining us on this very special Memorial Day weekend episode. Why is it special? Because we are doing our Solo, a Star Wars story spoiler review right now. Yes, we've all seen it. We all loved it. We're going to break it down, get into all the parts we loved, liked, Easter eggs, break this whole thing down right here for you. And again, it is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen it yet, come back to this episode after you've seen it. But before we get into all that, let's say hi to the crew. That's right, we put together a crew. James Baney and Lacey Gilleran. What's going on, guys?
How do you think I'm doing this weekend? You think I'm doing pretty good?
I would say you probably are, because you've already seen Solo.
That's
twice.
right, I have. I've seen Solo twice. I'm super pumped, having a good time, really excited. Let's do this podcast. I'm excited to talk about spoilers, man. Spoilers. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to be here. I'm excited to talk about Solo, and I just saw it, so I'm like still thinking about it right now, and I'm trying to put my words together, but let's get started. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, now Lacey saw it twice, but she saw it once first with me, so I imagine the one she saw second wasn't as good because I wasn't there.
You know what's really funny? It was actually, so there's something about the energy of the opening night when you have all these like diehard fans in the room with you that you kind of feed off that energy, and it seems like you're like having the best time. And then today I saw it at like 1 o'clock with like 15 old dudes, and they were not laughing or cheering or anything. And I was like, I don't know if I should cheer. And I felt like I was the only one laughing. So it was a very different experience than when I saw it with John.
I'm starting to think Lacey went to the second showing with me because I was next to some old guys and I went at like 2 p.m. Yeah.
But, you know, John wasn't there for me to hit, too, every time something happened, like an Easter egg or something reference.
Ah, there you go.
And I'd point at the screen. And he's like, I get it. Stop talking to me.
You're ruining this experience.
Yeah, it's funny. No matter where you are, what theater you're in, if it's an opening night of a Star Wars movie, when the Lucasfilm logo comes up, there's always that one dingus. There's always one. Only one. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah.
It's so funny that happened. And I looked at John, and John just goes, there's always one.
There really is. It's not 2. It's not 3. It's always one guy, and he's the dead center of the theater.
Yeah.
So whoever you are, you're listening right now. You know who you are. Just I guess just keep doing it. Who cares? We have poll results to get through real quick here. We asked you guys, how much will Solo, a Star Wars story, gross in the U.S. opening weekend? It is a long weekend, and we said, let's see what the pulse of the people think about how it's going to perform. And over 1,000 of you voted. 20% of you said 100 million, 32% said 125 million, 40%, the lead vote, said 150 million, and then 8% of you said more than 150 million. What do you guys think? You think 150 or above?
So, there's always those projections that are out there. And I think what's funny about Solo, me and Lacey were talking about this beforehand, is that I think everybody kind of predicted that it would do about 80 million. 100 million, maybe. That was like the top of the game. And then that report came out that it was said 170. And then everybody was like, oh my God, we were way off. All right, I'm going 200 million. You know what I mean? And everybody started shooting high. Well, now it's looking like, and we won't know, we don't know the exact numbers, but if it goes below that 170, now everybody's thinking, oh, well, it didn't hit what they thought it was going to hit,
Right.
So I don't know. I still think it's probably going to hit somewhere. My first projection was like 100 million, I think, or something like that. So I'm going to go with like 120. I don't know, somewhere in there.
I think it's going to hit around 140, 150. If I was to guess.
So you're right around what everyone else is saying. Our best comment, which was liked by the most amount of people, was by Orange Grove 55 at Orange Grove 55. And they said, I'm guessing closer to 200 million for the 4-day weekend. 4-day weekend, good for you. I'm only having a 3-day weekend, so Orange Grove is having a heck of a weekend. And a few people sent us, of course, Dr. Evil saying $1 million, which is always good for a chuckle.
$1 million. You have to say it like that. Come on, John.
With the $1 million.
$1 billion worldwide.
100 bajillion dollars. Rest in peace, Mini-Me. All right, so that's it for that. The solo challenge, we have a winner. We actually emailed the winner privately, so once we get that locked in, we will announce it a week from Monday on our next regular episode. So stay tuned for that. If you didn't get an email from us, you didn't win the contest. But there were over 2,500 of you who entered. We were very shocked by that, very impressed. Thank you so much for entering.
Thank you.
And thank you to Black Series Rebels and Star Wars Explained for helping us put together this awesome prize package that is going to that one lucky winner. So thank you to you guys. And now it's time, guys. We got to dive in. Spoiler review of Solo, A Star Wars Story. I have a lot to say about it. I also have to toot my horn a little bit. But let's get this thing going by initial quick reactions for each of us. Starting with you, James. What was your initial thought when you walked out of the theater and hopped back in your car?
The key word is quick, James. Quick.
Yeah.
Quick, James.
I have a feeling James might be a little quick tonight.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I had a good time with it, and I think that everybody's going to have a good time with it. There were low expectations going in, and I think people walked out saying that was fun.
Right on. Lacey, when you walked out, I know we were together, so I kind of know your vibe, but for the people out there, what was your first reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I said this last night on Twitter, and I still think it after seeing it the second time. It's just, I had so much fun watching it. And I was like smiling the whole time and laughing and having a really good time. And I saw someone put this on Twitter, and I forget who it was, so I apologize. But they were like, it's kind of like getting on Space Mountain for 2 hours and just riding it nonstop and then getting off. Like, it was just like a really feel-good movie with a lot of action and wit and hilarious, funny moments. And I just couldn't stop smiling. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I share a lot of those sentiments. I remember when the movie ended, I was like, I can go for another 30 minutes here. I was not ready for it to be over. I had such a good time. And when a movie flies by, you know that you're having a good time. Because there's even movies I like where I'm like, all right, we got about 10 minutes left here. Let's wrap this thing up. Not this one. And I thought Alden did better than I could have imagined. Mm-hmm. And Chewie was absolutely outstanding. And we'll get into more of that as we get through the spoiler review here. So let's start this thing off. Spoiler review, the movie opens on Corellia. It's Han, it's Kira. We kind of expected this. Let's talk about it. Corellia, what's on your mind?
Well, first off, the crawl. What do you guys think about that? So
it wasn't really a
the
crawl.
words at the beginning, that's what I'm saying. It's the I said crawl, but yeah,
Slates.
So those came up. We saw a little bit of the movie, and then we got that logo that comes up. Are you guys feeling that like better than Rogue One, or do you think they should have They should have just went back to a crawl? Or
I think it was way better than what Rogue One did. Having something there, I think, is important. I don't think you need the crawl necessarily, and if you've listened to me on this podcast before, you know how cheesy I felt the Rogue One title logo thing was, and I felt this wasn't as much. I liked going through the logo. I didn't see it in 3D, but I imagine that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And those words kind of help you set the tone for the film. So I liked what they did here compared to Rogue One.
Yeah, I liked it too. And I don't think it needs a crawl because it's not a saga film and it needs to be its own thing.
I don't know, man. To be honest, I just have like a ton of like little Easter egg things that I thought were cool,
Hey, James, remember when you said that they weren't going to kiss? And they kiss in the first not even 5 minutes of the movie? And I nudged John and was like, well, James is wrong there.
Yeah, we'll get into the solo challenge stuff, but I will say I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go on this adventure, get all the questions right, and I'm wrong. So it was like within like a matter of seconds, I was like, oh my gosh, there's barely even been dialogue in this movie, and I'm already incorrect.
Yeah, no, that definitely caught me off guard because you don't see that in any other Star Wars movie where they're like kissing in the first 5 minutes.
Now, the first moment I was like, okay, this is making me feel like this is Han Solo, is when he pulled that little trickery and turned the car sideways, but he got caught at the very end. I'm like, that's Han Solo. He's not thinking. He's just like, he makes it seem like he knows what he's doing, but he has no clue.
Yeah.
And they kind of got ice there in the end.
Mine was the thermal detonator, where he's like, I've got this detonator. And she's like, you just made a noise with your mouth. And he's like, no.
That was good. Lady Proxima.
Even before that, the one just right away when he's like, Moloch, I was just on my way to see Proxima, that is immediately something that he would say.
Yeah. And then, we kind of got out of Corellia rather quickly with the whole shifting into the Empire thing. But in terms of, I know a lot of people are bothered by this, and it looks like Bob Iger was more right than we thought.
Yep. I came out of the theater saying that exactly. I was like, so they tried to swing what he was saying into something else, and he was totally saying that's how Solo got his name.
Bob put a little booze in his apple juice that day, and he let something slip.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, so I'm just going to put it out there. This is how Han got his name. What's that, Bob? That's how he got his name?
Yeah.
I mean, how he came into being himself, kind of. Oh, crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Good thing I own this company.
So the vibe coming out of that comment is, oh, God, I hope we don't get that. I hope we don't get how he got his name. But I see it. I see it in the movie, and it didn't bother me at all. You know, when J.K. Simmons gave him his name, I was like, yeah, that's totally fine.
J.K. Simmons.
That's totally him. That was him. Go watch it again.
I looked nothing like J.K. Simmons.
Oh, watch it again. It looks like
I
him.
did.
Do you mean J.K. like you're just kidding Simmons? Because it was not J.K. Simmons.
No, I know it wasn't him, but it looked like him.
I think, though, like people were like, he just accepted that name the guy gave him. What about his real name? And I don't think Han knew what his real last name was.
Yeah,
because he was like, oh, I have a last name now? Cool. Let's take it. I think
he made up the name Han, and I think he probably made up. I mean, we know how he got Solo now too, so it didn't really bother him because
I think he knew his name was Han. I think it was kind of like a Ray thing where he knows his first name. That's about it.
Yeah, but I think if he knew his first name, he probably would have known his last name too. I don't know. It doesn't really matter either way.
Did Ray know her last name?
Talk about that connection though, where she's like, "I'm no one," and then he's no one.
She didn't know her first name. She called herself Ray because of the pilot helmet.
So what about when they split them up? He gives her the dice. That was a nice little moment. We kind of knew we were going to see those puppies again, but they didn't really have a big impact in this movie. I was shocked that they had nothing plot impact wise, in my opinion.
They are in the movie so much. I noticed them a lot more the second time around.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think the importance of just being, a symbol of, their companionship is all that they really needed to be. I didn't necessarily need them to be like the thing that he uses to win the Falcon or something. It's
not even that. Yeah. It's the symbol of good luck. That's what it is. So when Luke gives it to Leia, it's good luck. You know what I mean? And that's what he always had. He had it in the beginning of the movie when he had the car, and then he gives it to her saying, stay calm, we have luck. And then she gives it back to him when they go on Kessel. Yeah, and I agree with all that. I just think when she gives it back to him on Kessel, it's I held on to these the whole time. We still have our connection. We're still friends.
It's almost like a false symbol to me, though, in the sense where like Han has that false bravado and that false sense of like confidence, because they don't really bring him luck. He just happen to have them, and he just also happens to get into good situations by doing things the wrong way.
Yeah, Han makes his own luck.
Yeah, exactly. So after this, where do we go from here? You guys saw it twice now. They
Mud
get split
Troopers.
apart. Yeah, okay, the Mud Troopers. Now, who wants to talk about this a little bit?
Dude, I loved the Mud Troopers scene. Like, they go into this, and I was like, what is this, Saving Private Ryan in Star Wars? This is awesome. This is the boots-on-the-ground movie that, like, we even got that in Rogue One, and yet this is more so that. There's, like,
I agree.
People dying, blowing up, getting tossed around here and there, and he's like, how the heck? I want to be a pilot. And then, of course, he's like, we'll get you in the air as soon as we can, and then he's on the ground. So
yeah, it was like a dirtier version of the village on Jakku when, like, Finn was like, oh, my God, what have I gotten myself into here?
I love how he meets Chewie, which as soon as he was like, oh, he's going to the Beast, I nudged John and I was like, it's Chewie.
Yeah, for sure.
I think everyone knew that was Chewie.
Yeah, and I love how he met Beckett too, because that whole thing of like, he sees him on the cliff and he's like, boom, 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 spinning his things around and stuff. I was like, this character is awesome. I loved Beckett's intro for sure.
And how Beckett was like, oh, yeah, I'll be your captain. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
do this, go do that.
Going back to Chewbacca, Wookiees eat people, I guess.
Wookiees eat TIE fighter pilots or whatever that was. Yeah.
I just love that moment, though, when he starts talking to Chewbacca. That's just like such a genuine moment.
You know, I felt like I shouldn't have liked it or something like that, but I was having so much fun that honestly, I didn't give a shit. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm so tired of the nitpicking and the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this is fun. Like, if this happened in A New Hope, no one would be complaining. But now people are like, well, he never talked to him like that before. I'm like, you know what? He may not ever again. He just did it to let him know, like, dude, I get you.
Yeah, it was a last-ditch effort. I mean, like, he was, like, getting ready to go under, and he's like, I'm willing to throw all my pride aside and actually try to speak broken, what's it called? Shriwook? Yeah.
Shriwook, yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is the dialogue is broken too. Like he says, like, look, pull, funny, fall, or something. He's not saying it quite right.
And they pull their first job together. They pull their first scam together.
Make freedom.
Yeah, make freedom. That's actually it. Yeah, you got it.
He was like pretending, like making it seem like Chewie was still hitting him, and he's like, "Oh, you got me right there," or like, "Oh man," and he keeps hitting the pipe.
Yeah,
like that was their first con together.
And he calls him a moof milker.
Yes, and then he spears him. He spears him like WWF Goldberg through the pipe. So any questions of Chewie and Han fighting? Like Lacey made fun of me, like, "Is that how bros start off?" I'm like, "Yeah, they do." And sure enough, they beat the crap out of each other on a one-sided one anyway. Just Chewie beating the crap out of Han. But
did you guys like Rio?
Yeah, I liked Rio, but I wish I got to know him more because I probably would have cared more when he died.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think he was a fun character to have around for a little bit, and there were a couple parts in there where I felt like his story was kind of interesting, like how he was feeding into their campfire.
I only liked when Han saw him pull up his pants, and then when he said, the best sleep you'll ever have is when you're curled up on the lap of a Wookiee.
I also like how he made himself look like a human, and he was using one of his hands to hold the helmet up.
When he does die too, he says, "It's no good to die alone, kid." And I was thinking that is kind of a big moment for Han, because that's like, I feel like that's the first time he saw somebody that he kind of cared about die in front of him, or at least that's how they presented it in this movie.
Yeah, well, more so it probably made him realize, like, maybe I need to develop some kind of relationship with somebody.
Yes.
Beyond, or I have to go back and get Kira now. Like, I have to make that happen. Although Han dies alone, technically, he still has.
He doesn't die alone.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he died alone.
Like physically he did, clearly, but he, obviously had Chewie there who greased Kylo Ren in the hip for him. So, but that's for another discussion.
The other Rio thing I really liked was when he got into the pilot seat, and he's like, no wonder they can't pilot or hit any shots or anything. You can't see anything.
I feel like that whole campfire scene was like, it was okay. It almost felt like it was kind of everything we expected from the trailer. Like, and then he gives him the gun. It wasn't a big moment. He just tossed him the gun, and they didn't even like build the music there. Like, here's the big moment where he gets his gun. It's just like, oh, okay, there, he got his blaster. Yeah,
but I liked that. I liked that there aren't like dun, 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 for every little like thing that makes Han Solo Han Solo. Like I said, I think my favorite thing coming out of that thing was Rio. I like the way he vibed with everybody else, and all his little comments about how he likes to be single. He's single by choice, baby.
Swingers, baby. Yeah. So where are we talking about now? The heist? Is that where we're at?
Yes, we're up to the heist.
Yeah, this, I know Lacey and I both laughed really hard when Han was like psyching himself up to jump onto the train.
Ah!
Yeah, he's like, ah! Everyone else, Chewie just does it, and he's like, whatever, I just got it. It's better than being chained up in that thing, so let's do this. And Han's like, oh God, okay. Ah!
And then he's like, I'm fine. I'm okay.
Yeah. And then again, man, I don't know what it was, but when Chewie's like hanging off the side there, he's gonna live, but you still get like a little worried. You're like, oh no, he's gonna get clipped by the mountain.
Yeah, I actually, my big one for Chewie was when he's like trying to release the last of the train things, you know what I mean? I'm like, that thing, and their timing is off, man. You like show a frame and it's like it's right about to fall off, and then like 13 seconds later in the movie he releases it, and I'm like,
that's every movie, man.
I know, but I'm sitting there like, come on, they should be falling off by now, but you know, whatever.
There's 30 seconds left on the bomb in a Die Hard movie and 30 minutes pass.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the first time we see Enfys Nest, right? And
yes.
the Cloud Rider gang. I didn't love the music. The music that surrounded Enfys Nest.
I wrote that down as something I loved.
You know what's funny? John Powell's known for like his indigenous tribe drum music. Like that's what he's known for with Born movies.
Yeah, I loved that music. It was like one of the standout things, because like the whole thing to me felt like I liked the score, I do, but a lot of it is, you know, dun, 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 you know, and it just kind of like moves around a lot like that. That song stands out, and you have voices, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can hear a person singing, and it sounds like children, but it sounds kind of like, you know, like...
It's like a Gregorian chant type of thing.
Yeah, orphans or like people who need help or something. I don't know. It's just, I loved the music for Enfys Nest and the Marauders themes.
And John, I know you hate the swoop bikes. You've been saying that for a couple weeks now, but I thought they were really cool.
Yeah, they came off better than I thought they would.
Yeah, they're like flying speeder bikes, sort of.
One thing about this that I was interested in was the dynamic between Beckett. Obviously Val died.
Yes.
And we kind of saw that coming when she was like, I'm going to stay here. I got to blow the bridge. I was like, oh, she's toast.
Yeah.
But I thought we were going to get more of a character out of Danny Newton than that.
I didn't expect Val and Beckett's relationship. That was a campfire thing, but like when we found that out, I was like, oh, so they're like together.
But when Beckett tells Han not to let go, that's like a Han Solo thing to do. Like, no, I'm not letting go of this. But Han does let go. So it's almost like Han was smarter when he was younger, or more like practical. And like Beckett was more reckless, because Han hasn't been desperate yet. So we don't see a desperate Han where he's like, I have to get this shipment. This was just Han saying like, no, I don't want to crash into this mountain. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think Beckett after that is talking about like, do you know what it's like to live with a bounty on your head? And like at that point, Han doesn't have that. He didn't understand that they were doing that because they owed somebody money. It was just like a way. It was just plus. Like if we make it out of this and with nothing, then we're back in the same position we were. And Val and Beckett were like, no,
Episode 4, Han is not letting go of that shipment.
Yeah.
Although, you know, he got in trouble with Jabba for dropping cargo.
So I don't know. Yeah.
But that was with Imperial. So yeah, it's curious to think what he would do in that situation.
Who knows though? He may have said, "Hey, I had to drop it," but he may have given it to somebody else for another reason.
Right.
So we don't know. But yeah, so they decided to go back to visit Dryden Voss and try to let's call it bargain with him. So you guys like the yacht?
I loved this scene. I thought it was so cool, and I loved the music and the guy in that glass jar.
Yeah, wasn't quite what I thought it was, but
yeah, James, you had pointed that out. You pointed it out kind of some time ago, though, when we saw the initial image of that he would sing.
I figured that he would sing, but I was thinking it was maybe he was using the other person's voice or something to do something, but they were just doing a duet, and I think everybody kind of gave that scene a laugh when they heard him singing that little green head, shrunken head thing.
I just thought it was so swanky and fun, and like you usually see these like really dirty, gritty places in Star Wars, like Mos Eisley and stuff. So to see something like this was really cool.
It was this movie's cantina scene where you got to like pan around and see different things and kind of take a break from the action and get a cocktail. And this is kind of where the continuation of the whole talk about the coaxiums going down, because this is what they were supposed to get for Dryden Voss. And this is when, and I elbowed Lacey, and I think she didn't remember the article or us talking about it, but I was like, dude, I nailed it. I'm like,
no, I said early on in the movie you nailed it. Like when she first hands him the coaxium like on Corellia, I was like, God damn it, John.
So yeah, we had an episode about a month ago where we had Ash Crossan on, and we talked about my article saying, when we pieced it together, that the coaxium might be the MacGuffin of the movie, and it kind of was, guys. And
that it was going to be injected into the Millennium Falcon as a reason to boost the Kessel Run. Yeah, all this other stuff, yeah.
But then also the part where Han and Chewie talk about Chewie's name, I looked at John, I was like, God damn it, John.
Dude, I'm telling you, me and Kazan are connected. I know the guy.
So Dryden Voss kills one of the regional governors.
With one of those weapons that looks like the Praetorian Guard weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we'll get to that later when we go through all these little Easter eggs and things like that. This is technically an Easter egg too, but one of the Rogue One, like, decanated, do you guys know what I'm talking about, is in that scene. They're like one of the sex droids or whatever.
Sex droids? What movie did you watch?
No. Yeah. Rogue One had them first. So they're humans, and then they cut off their heads so they don't have a brain, and they reprogram them to serve it. They quote unquote service Imperial officers and stuff. And it's very implied that they're like sex droids or sex slaves. Basically, because they have human body parts.
The girl with the half head. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. She served him the drink.
Yeah.
And they show up more prominently in this movie, whereas they're like real quick, you blink and you miss them in Rogue One.
They're creepy. Ugh.
Yeah, they are.
Now, when Kira goes up to Han and like pats him on the back or like touches his shoulder, he turns around like, he looked surprised, but I would have been like, holy shit! Like, there's 40 billion planets in this galaxy. Like, how are you here right now? It's not like your friend lives in Ohio and I live in Connecticut and I see you in Philly. I'd still be like, holy cow, James, what's up, man?
Yeah.
This is a galaxy.
His whole life has been leading up to this one moment.
Yeah. I think that in the environment that he's in, he's like, oh my God, what are you doing here? Kind of a thing, you know what I mean?
Down the whole time, which is funny too.
Yeah.
He's like,
I'm gonna run into
he
people.
Literally does it.
Yeah.
I like that scene. I have to say, I do like that scene because it shows Han's naivety and his gullibleness. He's just like, keep your head down. And he took it literally. And he's just like literally like Charlie Brown putting his head down, like looking around.
And how out of place he is in this world. And like ultimately we get to this point later in the movie that he's the good guy. But throughout the whole movie, you have these moments where you're like, he always is the good guy. Even in a room of crooks, he sticks out like a sore thumb, you know, like he's just there.
He's an idealist.
Yeah.
Who calls himself an outlaw.
Who's just trying to do the right thing, yeah.
What was your take on Dryden Voss, like, first impression?
Meh.
I think, I think he's great. I think it's like if Paul Bettany really did have power and killed people and could say whatever he wanted to say, you know what I mean? I don't know. I like Dryden Voss. I thought he was intimidating.
I didn't find him intimidating.
Neither did
That's the thing. I didn't get and I'm stacking that up against other Star Wars villains, which I guess is unfair. Like, if this was a Mel Gibson movie where his kid got kidnapped, I'd be like, oh yeah, you don't want to mess with this guy. But for a Star Wars villain, it didn't stack up to me. And maybe that's unfair for me to make those comparisons, because he's not like a Force user or a Sith. I guess he's online with the Jabba, and I don't really consider Jabba intimidating either, so.
Right, because other people do his dirty work.
Yeah, I don't know, though. I think Dryden Voss is more intimidating than Jabba. I think the history of Jabba is he's supposed to be like one of the most biggest gangsters or whatever, but this Dryden Voss guy,
gangster,
everything, which it was Jabba. The big shot gangster putting together a crew was Jabba.
Yes.
I want to just throw that out there. But no, Dryden Voss, man, I loved all of his lines. He's like, oh, how are you holding up? You know what I mean? Because it's just so fake. Like, you can just see through it, and you're like, you're an evil person. I just know you are. And like, I thought he portrayed the character really well. And one of my favorite lines is when they get up and he's like, oh, and just so that you know, if you fail me again, you're all out of options. You know what I mean? It's just such a dark thing to say. By the way, I'll kill you.
I don't ask for anything twice.
The one thing that really bothered me, and obviously I'm coming from a little bit of a different position than you guys, is the fact that Kira was branded, and the way he speaks to her and like touched her, that always bothered, that bothered me both times. And it was very similar to Leia with Jabba, where he has a leash, like a collar on her. But I feel like this was even worse than the collar, to be branded like that.
Because he still called her a lieutenant, like it was important.
Yeah, and it just like, in my brain, I'm crazy, so I start to go in this dark downward spiral of like, what other things has he done to her if he's willing to brand her?
And he says, I would be inconsolable if I lost you, but then he already knows he's probably going to have to kill her.
Not only that, he was sending her on a mission that she could have died like 17 times.
Yeah, and then we have to kind of connect the dots of who knew what and what she really knew and what she allowed to happen because other things were coming, which we'll get to later, I guess. But
do we want to move on to Kessel then? Because now they have the mission.
Before we go there, though, we get to meet Han and L3, or I'm sorry, Lando and L3. And I thought the whole scene of the game was great. Going throwback to what we did a Resistance transmissions, and we asked what would Han put up as a something to win that hand, and I was right. He put up something that he didn't own. He just made up a ship and said, oh, I got this. And interestingly enough, it's the Rebels. It's not the Ghost, but it's the same ship as the Ghost. It's a VCX 100.
The same model, same...
Which is so cool, yeah.
And it's neat too because he's like, yeah, it's the fastest in the galaxy. Now he doesn't know about Han Solo yet, but Hera and Han have that debate later of which is faster, and Pablo says that the Ghost could do the Kessel Run in 14 parsecs, which is kind of weird now that we know what the run actually is. But
you round down,
Yeah, you ran down. So.
And we find out that Lando cheated. He has a card slide coming out of his wrist.
He cheats at everything, apparently.
Yeah,
it's not just cards.
He cheated in last shot, so yeah.
But when you hear tales about this story and them playing cards and stuff, we didn't really get the whole detail because you kind of almost felt like Han screwed Lando over, you know? Yeah. Hey, I want it fair and square, remember? It's like, what happened there? And it turns out Lando was kind of the dirtbag. So
yeah.
I always took it as they were both cheating. He says like, I want it fair and square, and he's not willing to argue because he knows he was cheating as well.
The only thing, Han didn't cheat though. He just bullshitted. He just said, yeah, I have this thing to put up, even though I don't.
Yeah, he just kind of did a poker face. He didn't literally cheat.
Well,
right. And then
I think he won it fair and square in the later game. I do think he won it fair and square. I don't think he was cheating there.
No, he took the card that Lando was going to put out and used it himself.
No, he didn't. He said you would have won if you had this.
If you had this.
If you had this, you would have been able to beat my hand.
And he shows the hand.
He didn't add it to his hand?
Yeah.
No, he didn't add it to his hand.
Okay.
No.
He was just showing him that I know you cheated and I don't need to cheat to win. That was the point of the end of the game.
So they play the game. Lando wins. Han kind of goes... yeah, my ship's in the shop,
Yeah, that never gets addressed, but I would think if I were Lando, I'd be like, you lied. You don't get to buy in this next game. Right. You lied to me. You don't have a ship. I know you now.
Now they get involved in the mission here. Is this when Chewie goes off, or is that once they get to Kessel? I forget.
That's once they get to Kessel.
I want to throw in there too. I loved the music when we finally get to see the Falcon. I think the way it was the original Star Wars theme, but they played it in a new form, and it was just beautiful. I loved the way they introduced it, and it was the first massive cheer and open clap in my showing. Was the Falcon same as the Force Awakens? So
same exact as the Force Awakens.
I liked it when Lando was like, "I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I understand," or whatever.
Yeah,
I accept.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah,
he just puts his hand out.
So good.
Yeah, I had to say at this point I didn't love Lando yet, but I never really loved Lando anyway. But I have to say, and people are going to get annoyed at me about this, but I really did not like L337.
I was okay with L3.
I thought she came across a little strong.
Yeah, I just felt like, and this is going to be a bold statement, and I'm going to lose followers for this, but I felt like L337 was the Jar Jar Binks of droids for the Star Wars saga.
Oh my God.
Every time she talked, it was just like too over the top. It was ridiculous. Just like, it didn't fit with the scenes to me, and it just felt like someone who was trying to make people laugh, and it wasn't natural. I just didn't like it. And when she died, I was kind of happy. So that's just my honest take on it.
I like how you're like, I'm going to be a little harsh, but I'm glad she's dead.
I mean, she's a robot. So it's like if my toaster fell apart. Okay, toaster rights, right?
Oh my
All right.
God. It's everything that L3 stands up against is John right now.
yeah, exactly. She makes a great GPS, okay? She makes a great GPS.
So we get to Kessel, the whole Kessel heist thing. Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of whatever, I guess. They get there. I think like I enjoyed it in the thing, but it's kind of like they just run in, started shooting people, grabbed it, and ran pretty much.
with the help of those Wookiees, though.
Which wasn't his wife or son.
By the way, one of the funnier scenes in the movie when all the droids just start acting out like little children at the end of daycare, stomping on stuff.
My favorite one was the one that stomps on the just stomping, and all it is a torso.
He looked like
and
a gunk
legs.
droid, kind of.
Which I would assume is
Warwick.
Yeah, Warwick. I think that's his daughter.
Oh, really?
Because she usually is in. I think she's in the movies, and she usually plays a droid similar to that. I could be wrong.
Is his daughter a little person too?
Yes.
Oh wow, that's cool that that torch is carrying on. Cool.
It was my favorite droid in that whole scene was the one that was just stomping on the buttons.
Yes, I agree. I was laughing hard at that. And someone pointed out they thought they saw R2, but it was definitely another astromech droid.
It was a yellow
R2D2.
one.
Yeah. I think R2 unit, but not R2D2. Right. Yeah.
Just in case someone's trying to cause a stir with the Solo challenge, R2D2 was not in Solo and Star Wars.
No C-3PO, no R2D2.
So the Wookiees help them load this thing up, and this felt a little action movie to me, where they're like, this can't heat up to this degrees. I'm like, is this like Speed, where the bus can't go over 50? I'm like, okay, we're under a time crunch here, which makes sense as to why they need to do it in a certain amount of time. So I guess that's the purpose there. But then we get into the whole Kessel Run, and honestly, the visuals in this whole sequence blew me away, man. I have to say, it's like some of the best special effects I've seen in any movie, let alone a Star Wars movie. The clouds, the lights, the monsters. I just felt it was like being in Empire Strikes Back when they're going through the asteroid field, but on acid or something. You know, I've never done acid, but there you go.
The other cheer in the theater, James, for us was when Chewie finally took a seat.
Oh, I got a big one when after L3 dies and they need a pilot, he runs up to the thing
and he smiles,
and he jumps in the seat, and they got a big cheer.
That's a great shot
for that too. But yeah, they're in they're trying to get away from the Empire. We actually kind of saw this as a clip, so we don't really need to touch on it too much, but yeah, it was great. And then he goes into the thing, he's going to take a shortcut. They use L3 is now part of the ship, which is interesting.
The GPS. She's the Waze app for the Millennium Falcon.
Which I noticed in the second screening of the movie is when she's loading up in the first time with Lando, she makes the noise of the Millennium Falcon turning on as herself and then hits her head. And then that noise gets transferred to the Millennium Falcon after she loads in.
Really?
Like the zoop noise.
Oh,
here's another one too. C-3PO in Empire Strikes Back says, "Sir, I don't know where your ship learned to speak, but it has the most peculiar dialect."
Oh.
That's pretty funny. Like C-3PO is just like listening to it, and it just hears like droid rights. Droid rights.
Exactly.
Like,
it's hearing L3. That's kind of interesting.
It's telling me to turn right.
When Han says, "I need you to talk to the Falcon," he's saying, "I need you to talk to L3." So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of conversations they have because they're both super feisty.
It would be very sassy.
So L3 has the best navigational maps. And now the Falcon is equipped with the best navigational maps.
Also, cool. I have to say, this is when I started to like Lando in this movie, because you actually saw him kind of be a human for a minute, and it wasn't just a shtick.
He turned off the charm,
emotion. Yeah, he got upset, and I was like, okay, there's a person there. It made me endear to him a bit more, and I really like that spot of it. So if L337's purpose is to show us Lando the human, then that works for me.
Yeah, I particularly liked his acting in the scene where he's like, it's impossible to do the Kessel Run in under 20 parsecs. And then she says, well, we could use the thing for, and he's like, theoretically, you know what I mean? It sounded like Billy D, so it sounds like Lando. Yeah. It felt real. It felt like how a real human would be responding in that situation. It's life or death. He just lost L3, his probably best friend at that point, possible relationship. I don't know if we want to go into all that, but
I loved when they were driving or flying the Millennium Falcon in the dark, and then the light comes on and they see the eye, and then all of them go at the same time.
It was that almost seemed like a comedy scene. You know what I mean? Like showing the front of the thing, and they all go, whoa! Like
it's like Leia seeing the Mynock, but times 20.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of that monster?
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
It
I didn't
looked a
have any
lot
problems
different
with it.
than what they showed us in the trailers. And they were like, again with the trailer thing, like the line about Han saying, oh, but we're fine. That wasn't even in the movie.
Yeah, I actually did notice, and we'll have to go back more, but there's a few scenes in the trailers that didn't make it to the final movie.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be the last time we discuss this movie because, one, we podcast 2 episodes every week.
This is it. This is the final time Solo gets mentioned.
There's not another Star Wars movie for about a year and a half, so we're going to talk more about Solo. Don't you guys worry about that. But I wanted to talk about this. When did it happen when they punch in the coaxium and you're like, here we go, we're going to take off, and then it just like fails and starts going backwards?
Yeah, which doesn't make sense because they had to perfectly line it up, and then we see it fail and it like starts falling in crazy free fall, but then it just so happens that when it does kick in, it happens to perfectly be pointed at the area they needed. Whatever. For the story, it's Han's luck. He had his dice.
Han Solo, baby.
Yeah.
It's Han Solo. You don't need an explanation.
So they jettison in, and that was a huge moment because I think everybody expected it to be one thing, and then it wasn't. And then when it was that one thing, we were all impressed by how fast it was kicking in, and the Falcon takes off. Yeah, it was cool.
Did
I think
you guys
that
realize
got a cheer
the monster
too.
kind of looked like the monsters from The Matrix? The robot guys?
I thought they looked like the monsters from, they do kind of, the Sentinels.
Yeah.
I thought it kind of looked like the Cloverfield monster in the face a little bit with like more eyes.
I thought it looked like Barney the dinosaur.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. So then we get to Savareen after we get out of this. Final location in the movie. We thought this might have been earlier. They decide to refine the coaxium at this location that was free from Imperial region.
And dude, how about that Falcon landing like someone who's been out partying all weekend on a Sunday morning? Bang, boom, there's the Falcon as we know it. They got rid of the escape pod, the landing gear's all jacked up, the guns are gone, the dish is gone,
and like Goose and Maverick, they buzz the tower. The Kelly Blue Book value on this thing is tanked. Lando's probably upset. He is
You're
upset.
Not trading that thing.
He says he hates Han and he never wants to see him again.
I loved that. I hate you. I know.
Yeah,
exactly. So Han had a good feeling about something, and he told someone I know to the I hate
that
you.
Lawrence bookend, though.
There's the Kasdan symmetry bookends. I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna miss this guy. I really am. I'm gonna miss him.
He said that. A bunch of people in the theater were like, "Oh my god, he said I know."
Yeah.
I'm just now realizing he said I know.
Yeah, he said I hate you. He goes, I know.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. When you said that, I was like, oh wow, I didn't pick up on that.
Well, the real script was I hate you too, and then they did 50 takes and they couldn't get it right, and then all just like, let me just do this, guys.
And then Lord Miller had a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy. Then Ron Howard came in.
Yeah.
Did you guys?
They probably got fired just because of that.
So, by the way, did you guys spot what George Lucas added to the film?
Yes.
Yes. The
cape thing, because he would never hang it back up.
Yeah. He just like swats it out of her hand. Like no.
No, he goes to hang it up and he just drops it.
Oh, yeah. I thought she was like going to hang it up, and he's like, no, pay attention to
that's
me.
what makes it funnier. He takes it from her and then just turns and doesn't even hang it. He just drops it. Well played, George Lucas.
So we have the return of Enfys Nest, right? Is that where we're at?
Yes, and she takes off her helmet, and I go, oh, great. It's Val and Beckett's daughter. And
That's
then it
what
wasn't.
I thought too. Yeah, it wasn't.
So, so it wasn't their daughter.
Remember last week when I was like, you know that scene where Beckett's like, you got a big problem, and Han's like, big problem, and then they walk out, and what if Enfys Nest just takes off her helmet? Well, that's exactly what she did. She just walks up and she's like, let me take my helmet off. But I was shocked. Like, I thought it was going to be some kind of like warrior looking, like gruesome, fearsome, and it's like a kid. I was very surprised about that.
It's perfectly calls back to what we know already from Kylo Ren, where it's not someone that's, disfigured or gross or crazy like Anakin.
Who out there listening figured that Lacey was going to try to connect this to Kylo Ren?
Dude,
somehow?
there are so many similarities. Look at her helmet. No, it was really cool.
Man, the dice, and Kylo Ren with the dice and the
Okay, so she's probably one of my favorite characters in this movie. I thought she was really cool. I think there's so much potential for her character, and she's super badass. The move she pulls that we'll probably talk about soon, is just epic, and the idea that what she stands for is so perfect in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I don't know how, but for some reason, I don't even know who this actress is, but I'm like, she's perfect. Like, somehow I just get this vibe that this is this like freedom fighter, and she's like seasoned and veteran, although she's so young or something. I don't know how they did it. And I noticed that later, like not even when she first takes off her helmet, but after she's, out with the Marauders after that, which we got some other reveals here too, by the way, with Benthic 2 tubes. That was interesting. And we also got he takes off his helmet and we see it's Weasel, which actually is it is Weasel from the Phantom Menace.
Yes.
It's not a new character for him to play.
That's him.
Enfys Nest is Erin Kellyman.
Yeah, we were told by somebody that they know who this actress is, and they're like, "Well, I'll give you her initials so you know that I'm legit." And he told us EK. So
yeah, so we actually kind of lost that break of a story because it actually broke before we got to publish it, but we did get that information, and that was part of the information too, is that I can't say who it is, but here's the initials so that you guys know I'm being legit when you do finally find out who it is. And they were right, so we have
and
that.
he said that she signed for multiple movies, so again, it could be just a contract thing to protect themselves, but it would be cool to see more of this character because we need to see it develop. I don't want this to be a Captain Phasma thing. Like Lacey was saying, it looks like a cool character. I'd like to see where it goes.
Enfys Nest, more like Enfys Best.
Oh, boy.
This whole end scene. So Han comes up with a scheme of how to help the Marauders, and they decide to try to go up against Dryden Voss, and Beckett backs down. And goes to hang out with this big shot gangster, hopefully get into that crew. And then we have this whole thing that happens, this scheme against Dryden Voss. Now, did you guys fall for this?
There were so many twists to it. I was like, yeah, all right.
I knew Beckett was going to turn on him, and I called it before he even walked in the door. I turned to John and I was like,
my question is, what made Dryden Voss think that it was fake coaxium? Because it wasn't. It was real.
Because that was the plan, is that they were gonna give him fake coaxium.
But Dryden Voss looked at it and said, like, "Oh, this is fake." Like, what? Obviously,
because
it wasn't.
Beckett said he's gonna walk in there with fake coaxium.
Oh, okay. So it was this whole scheme.
I think as soon as Beckett walked away, he knew immediately. He's like, "I'm gonna call this in, and I'm gonna." Back.
Okay.
It's not even that. It's at the beginning of the movie when he's with the other mud troopers and he tells the lieutenant. Remember, he's like, "Lieutenant, I've got this guy's a deserter," and he's like, "Don't believe a word he says." He probably said the same thing.
So there's a little bit of confusion here. I'm not exactly sure when this whole thing goes down. Like, why didn't Beckett just run away with the coaxium earlier in the movie? I don't like, he's standing there in front of Voss, clearly he doesn't kill him, clearly betraying him. Like, why didn't he just like go fly away? I don't know. I'm a little bit confused on that motivation there, but I bought it. I thought that Beckett left. I turned to my friend and I said, so Beckett doesn't die. We're gonna see Beckett again in Solo 2 if they make it. We can talk about that another day.
James, it almost felt like they knew that we knew most of this movie going in, so like we have to twist this thing up at the end here and give them something like surprising. And boy, the end of this movie, like the last 20% of the movie really twisted and turned a lot. Yeah,
and I've said before that Star Wars doesn't have a lot of twists and reveals, and we got reveals with Enfys Nest, we got twists with Beckett and
now, did you think it was going to be Beckett when he's like, "Come on out"?
I did think it was going to be Beckett at that point, but they had already convinced me that Beckett left, so I did still fall for it.
I said it to Beckett John. He was there. I said, "It's Beckett."
So, and the guy sitting next to me in the second showing goes, "Lando." And then I was like, no, it's not. I'm thinking to myself, no, it's not. But that was the second showing. So
all right, now remind me how this scene culminates, because it's so scrambled in my head right now. So Beckett goes, "Oh, check the lid," and Han's blaster is under it, and he's like, "Very clever." And then what goes down?
They
to wrap up
they cut to Enfys Nest loading the stuff. They have them surrounded. Then it ends up it's not Enfys Nest. It's one of the village people. And Enfys Nest jumps from the roof and beats
YMCA?
They open up
during?
They open up the container and there's no coaxium, and he says, "There's no coaxium. What's going on?" And then they pull the helmet off. It's the
She jumps
villager.
from the roof. Yeah.
Yep, she jumps from the roof. She knocks out all the people, and then that's when Beckett realizes, wait a second. So if all of his guards are here and they don't have the coaxium, this must be the real coaxium. And so then he decides to just like pick it up and walk out. Which
Beckett kills the other guys in the room first.
Well, he does. He kills the other two guards or whatever. He said, "What are you doing?" "I'm thinking, and I prefer to be the only guy in the room with a gun when I'm doing it."
That was a great line.
Yeah. So he leaves, and then Solo and Beckett have this thing, and then Kira, for some reason, knocks Han down, but then turns on Dryden Voss. It's like, why not just fight Dryden Voss with him instead of disabling your partner?
Yeah, that's why this scene was all like, it was like, let's trick the audience 55,000 times.
Yes. And then she pulls a Kylo Ren and says like, "Oh, I'll use my weapon to kill my true enemy." Like, it's like the same scene again.
So she kills Dryden Voss.
Yes.
She kills Dryden Voss
with his own knife.
Yeah.
And then she says, "I'm right behind you."
That's always a red flag for me in movies. Yeah, I'm right behind you. Yep, I'll be right there.
So then Han gets out of there, and she says something about smile, and because that's smile, and he's like, "What?" She's like, "That's what I did when I used to think about you getting away," or something
yes.
like that.
So earlier in the movie, I caught this the second time because I was looking for it. When she first meets him in the same room, pretty much, she says, "When I used to think about going on an adventure, it would always make me," and then she doesn't finish the sentence, and he goes, "Make you what?" And then that's when Dryden Voss walks in and interrupts them. So then when later in the movie, she says, "Smile." That's what it always made me do.
Oh, that's better. Yeah. That's better. Okay, that's cool. And then so he leaves, and then that's when she calls up her boss.
Yeah. Which
Darth Maul.
Oh. Which she took the ring that what's his name used to brand her with, right? Is that what that is?
I think so. Well,
no,
I don't know
it's
that it's exactly the same thing,
symbol.
but it's the same
symbol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Her ring was like the key to call Darth Maul, I guess.
I first saw him from behind and heard the voice. I'm like, that's the Emperor. I'm like, oh my God, that's the Emperor. And then it turns out to be Darth Maul, and I'm like, well, it's Sam Witwer who did the Emperor, so it's a little similar there.
It's Ray Park who actually did dialogue in Phantom Menace.
He didn't do dialogue
since Sam Witwer's the more recent voice. No.
He didn't do the dialogue in Phantom Menace.
He did
another actor.
So at last we will have our revenge. That was somebody else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, news to me, Star Wars fans. It's a new day every day. So it's Ray Park, which is cool because, I mean, there's a little bit of continuity there, but if we do get a Solo 2 and we see the return of Darth Maul, then we actually have a guy who can do all the acting and aerobics and all the stuff that goes into it. That's awesome. This makes a lot of sense that Darth Maul would be into the criminal underworld, at this point, but nobody saw him coming. Nobody saw a lightsaber being ignited. I think so many people lost that question on the Solo challenge. He does light up a lightsaber. It is an Inquisitor lightsaber. That's cool. That's within continuity. And he runs Crimson Dawn and probably some other syndicates at this time too.
I love the people who are like, why do you light up the lightsaber? He's via hologram. I'm like, if you had a lightsaber in your hand, wouldn't you turn it on once in a while?
Also, they needed that shot of it reflecting in Kira's eyes. That's such a great shot.
And the other thing too is she is very like, cool, I'll totally make it or whatever. And he stands up, grabs the lightsaber, turns it on, and it's like this moment of no. I'm not messing around. I'm serious. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's important to do that.
We're gonna become close friends or something. We're gonna work closely.
There's sound effects of his mechanical legs moving. It's so good. This is just juicy Star Wars stuff, man.
As a quick aside, and I want to talk about this in a future episode, but total missed opportunity to have spent the Maul vs. Kenobi on Rebels when they could have done this in a movie. And I'll just leave that there.
Dave Filoni will disagree with you, who was at the premiere when I remember they asked him what he had to do with the movie, and he said, I can't tell you. Now we know.
I don't care. He was wrong.
Yeah, so do you think the overall consensus with fans are going to be that, what? Darth Maul? Wait, hold on. When does this take place? That guy's dead. You know?
There's already been a lot of that. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, okay, that's totally understandable. So if you just ask me flat out, that makes sense. But
there's a lot of fans that don't watch the animated stuff.
I get that, but I do think that there are a lot of typical fans that are like, yeah, I heard they like brought him back to life and he has like spider legs and stuff. Like, I think the average fan knows that Darth Maul lived on in weird expanded universe, not movie stuff.
It depends on what you call the average fan.
I would bet you $10 that they don't.
I know. I get you.
I don't think they do.
My buddy Chad was like, dude, I just saw Solo. Darth Maul's alive? I'm like, yeah, dude, they had the Clone Wars series, and it turns out he wasn't dead. He got mechanical legs. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what this does do, though? This is an interesting point of view. It opens up the door for every time we've ever said they'll never make Snoke Ezra because the average fan doesn't know who Ezra is. And if they're going to do something like we said that Darth Maul was always going to exist in the animated world because the average fan doesn't know that he survived and we're keeping those stories separate, this indicates that they don't care. That if it's important to a movie or they think it would work in a movie, they'll make it work.
Yeah, but a linear return of a character is a lot different from saying this character is this character.
Yeah.
It's not as much of a stretch. You're just like, we're bringing this guy back. That's one straight line from point A to point B.
I don't know. I almost see it as easier to say, we know you don't know who this is, but we're going to introduce him in this movie, rather than to say, hey, this character died and he got cut in half and he's definitely been dead for a long time. No, don't worry about that. He's still alive. Like, I feel like that's harder to explain than just explaining a character as a new character.
I don't think so, because people know Phantom Menace, and everyone went and saw that movie.
And everybody saw him die. And for 20 years, they've known him as dead.
Yeah, but I think it's easier to introduce someone that they've already known, whether he's dead or not, than to bring someone in that is from the animated series that no one ever knows.
All right, so where do we go from here? She closes the conversation. How does their conversation end? I forget how their.
She says, "I'm right behind you." That's it. And then it turns out that they go over and Han shoots him before Beckett has a chance to pull the trigger.
Right.
He dies, and then Kira flies away after she talks to Darth Maul, and she looks out the window. She clearly sees him, but doesn't give him away to Maul, because Maul says, we're gonna find Beckett and his accomplices. But yet she doesn't really tell them that, well, they're right out there, so she's stuck between a rock and a hard place, I think, but she's still choosing one of the two.
Yeah, she doesn't mention Han at all. She said it was all Beckett, and Beckett's now dead.
Well, if they're making a follow-up, which I hope they do, she's going to do some kind of martyr and die or something. Maul's going to kill her, or who knows. That would be cool. But the whole I like the end for Beckett there, though. He was just kind of like, I would have done the same thing. Like, you made a smart decision, and it's kind of like the Kasdan saying, like, George screwed up, Han would shoot first. So we're going to fix it our way.
Yeah, I love that. And that ultimately Han is the good guy from Kira and from Beckett. And it shows you that, like, whereas Beckett could leave with all the stuff and peace out, Han, in A New Hope, couldn't leave with his money and supplies. He still came back.
Yeah, it's tricky with Han. It's almost like he's not sure who he wants to be yet. And then he makes that decision later at the Battle of Yavin. But
the point is that I don't think he could ever be Beckett. And that's the point they're saying in this movie, and then ultimately we see that in the original trilogy, is that he thinks he is. I agree. I personally think he is trying to not be the good guy. He wants to be Beckett, and until the Battle of Yavin, he doesn't say, okay, I admit it, I'm a good guy. Right.
So what happens here? Or do we go to find Lando from here?
This is that final Lando scene. So he goes there and he says,
Wait, where was this, though? Because I was confused about where this is exactly.
We put that question on the Solo challenge. Did we go to any planets? I honestly just believe that this planet is a new planet. It's just a place we've never been.
Doesn't he say, like, oh, you've never been here before to blah, blah, blah? And I thought Lando said that as you're scrolling through the trees or something.
No, maybe, but not that I picked up.
It definitely wasn't Bespin. as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
So thoughts on this final game?
Well, we kind of talked about it. Yeah. So he ends up stealing the card from him and then wins fair and square. So he wins the Falcon. I'm not sure what Han put up in the second match, but they don't really spell that out. They just point out that the Falcon was up for it again.
He puts up the little bit of coaxium that she gave him, right? Is that is that when that happens?
Because it's worth at least 10,000 credits or whatever.
That's true. All right. So it's that, and he says all this plus your ship or whatever.
Oh, by the way, James, you were right when you said, when we guessed is Chewie helping him by bluffing when he shows him his hand? Chewie's like, oh God, and he had a good hand. So
yeah, he had a hand that definitely was going to win.
To con Lando there. And then so they get the Falcon, and that takes us to the final scene in the cockpit, right?
Yep.
And so they have a little bit of an exchange. I don't really recall it, how in depth it was. Oh, they were talking about Jabba, right?
I think he says, we're going to go to Tatooine. Beckett was saying that there's this job over here, which is kind of interesting, that he's going to be meeting Jabba sometime soon.
And Chewie's like reluctant.
Yeah, and he goes, hey, but have I ever steered you wrong? And Chewie's like, does this little thing. So Chewie got the final line in the movie, which was part of the Solo Challenge thing. We confirmed that. And they blast off to hyperspace in a typical Star Wars fashion.
I think we all, on this show at least, and I'm sure every Star Wars fan predicted it was going to end with the Falcon blasting into
light. It makes the most sense. Yeah,
it does, but at the same time, it pans over to the dice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. I think it is the last shot.
Yeah.
All right.
They shoot off, and then the camera pans over to the dice, and then it goes.
But then the post-credit scene was crazy.
So everyone was there. Jabba, Boba, Jackson, Sana Starros, Darth Vader shows up.
They announced the Old Republic movie.
Dr. Aphra. Yeah, it says the Old Republic is
ends
next.
With Pablo Hidalgo from his HVAC Twitter account saying there's an Old Republic movie coming. No, but that's the movie. So that's pretty much our spoiler review. Any last words on Solo from a spoiler perspective? Quick little Easter eggs you may have saw that you liked?
Yeah, so I did want to mention too that some of the scenes were different. So we didn't get stuffed Ewok. I noticed that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Scarif was mentioned. Aura Singh was mentioned, so we know Beckett killed her. Felucia was mentioned. Teras Kasi was mentioned from the Masters of Teras Kasi game. It's a martial arts form performed by the Praetorian Guards.
The Emperor was mentioned.
Yeah. I went through a ton of these. I did not expect to... We didn't get a Force theme, but we got Duel of the Fates played in this movie, which was really interesting, and that was tied in with... And it's not... I could be wrong, but I don't think it's on the soundtrack, because I went listening for it. So I think even the soundtrack itself tries to hide that. Bosk was also mentioned. Lando saying mining colonies are the worst.
That'd be funny if the last track of the score was like, yo, it's Darth Maul. That's like the name of the track.
The Indiana Jones Idlehead is in there. The Empire actually does use the Empire theme for their promotional campaign.
I didn't like that.
It's in Rebels.
Like
it's in Rebels. They use the same song.
I thought it tied it back to everything.
It's breaking the fourth wall. I really did not like that at all. They use it as that's their own music now. Like,
well, it's in like a major chord, and it's like pepped up, so it does sound a little bit more like military.
It's their propaganda video. Join the Empire today, and you can eat lunch with Darth Vader. And
bring balance to the galaxy, or no, it was bring order.
Bring balance to your breakfast by joining the Empire
with Cocoa Krispies. Yeah, no, I mean, there's tons of Easter eggs, and we'll get into them more and more. I'm sure all these things will pop up. We mentioned a lot of them. I mean, Minok roast, he's having a Minok roast with Rio.
Well, I'm sure there's a ton.
Yeah, they're all there.
And I'm sure there's a lot of things everyone out there is going to be like, I can't believe Lacey didn't bring this up.
Yes, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, all I can say is that Kylo Ren got his hair from his dad.
Yeah.
That's apparent in this movie.
Yep, absolutely. again, I loved it. I need to see it again because obviously you guys saw it twice now, so I'm gonna go see it. Depending on when this airs, maybe today even. But I loved it. I think it's going to be have watchability because it's a very rich movie, a lot of movement. I could feel myself popping it in and just at any moment's notice, just watching this movie again. Where that's not the case with all of them. There
was no, for lack of a better term, there's no Canto Bite scene, if you will. I don't think there was a scene in the movie where people were like, "Oh, I just wanted to get through that part. It was so boring, slow." Not that everybody thinks that, but if you have to associate it with something.
Yeah, some people said they thought the first act was slow, but I didn't. I enjoyed how the movie progressed.
I didn't either. So people said that it takes a while to get started. I thought it was good from the moment it started.
Agreed.
The second viewing too. So all day today, I watched it Thursday and then I watched it Friday. So Friday morning, I started reading Most Wanted, and I'm about a third of the way through the book, and it's great because it's like Han and dealing with Lady Proxima. And and then I go into the theater and it feels weird because they're mentioning a book character in the opening crawl kind of thing, and I'm like, I love this, man. All this stuff just gets me so excited when we release new visual dictionaries and new stories with Han and Chewie, and there's the Star Wars comics, the Star Wars adventures and stuff that they go on. It's just all this stuff is just it gets me so excited and pumped up, and this is why I love Star Wars. So we have a lot to talk about, and I think we did a pretty good job at doing a spoiler review here.
We could our Last Jedi review was 2 hours, so we could have gone longer. Maybe we'll do more in a discussion in the future. We'll break it down a little bit more for you and try to get deep and get smart on you. Yes. I know how much you guys love that over fun.
And we asked for questions, but we're running out of time. We're already an hour and 10, so we'll probably get to those coming up soon. But thanks for sending us the questions. And there's a lot in there that I can't wait to discuss. You know what I mean? And Solo 2 is one of the questions,
Right. Yep. Plenty of questions. Thank you for sending us to those. We did not skip over them, as James said. We will get to those. But that brings us to the end here. Thank you for listening to our review, our spoiler review. Again, let us know in the comments or tweet at us things that you think you noticed that we may not have brought up, and what you thought of the movie and all that kind of stuff. Thank you all who participated in the Solo Challenge. Again, we will announce the winner a week from Monday. We are contacting the winner now. So look out for that. Thank you again to Black Series Rebels and Star Wars Explained for helping us with this prize package for the winner. So thank you again to our friends in those two crews there. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes and like and comment on our videos on YouTube. And we may have some news for you on some new other platforms that we might be getting involved in. Also, go to tpublic.com/user/Resistance Broadcast. Pick up some Resistance Broadcast gear, including our Han Solo, different types of designs, Han and Chewie, all those types of things that James put together for us. Also, go to our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, for all of your latest Star Wars news, information, reviews, editorials, all that good stuff. James Baney, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks, and obviously I am spoiler heavy now, so you can feel free to message me or write me there. I will talk about anything Solo related that you want to talk about, or books or comics, whatever. Let's do it.
Right on, man. And Lacey, where can people annoy the bejeez out of you on the internet?
People can find me on Twitter at Lacey Gilleran. I will be probably tweeting about Enfys Nest because she's the coolest new character to the galaxy.
Is that your new thing now? Is that the new thing?
What?
Is that the new thing? Are
yeah,
we done with...
I love her.
Yeah, all right.
She's the best.
Okay, so shirtless Kylo is gone.
No, he's not gone. She's just really good too. So it'll probably be Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, Enfys Nest, and Kylo.
Oh my god, a three-headed monster. And now that you guys have turned this off and you can't hear my plug, you can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and writing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. And a week from Monday, we'll be back with our normal episodes again. We will hit you up with all the details on who won the Solo Challenge, and we're going to have more giveaways in the future, so tune in with us then. And of course, the following Thursday after that, we are going to have a special guest, John Roca from Collider Video, so stay tuned all the next week, because we aren't here with you this coming week. We're taking the week off, sort of. But keep it here, keep subscribed, and we'll see you next time right here on the Resistance Broadcast.